Now, everyone, please take out your GE4C student book and turn to page 24. Please turn to page 24. Okay. GE4C student book, page 24. Good. So now we're on page 24. Okay. So remember, okay, so William has more rulers than Nick. Okay, so let's go number one. Ken's book has 40 pages. Corey's book has 20 pages. So Ken's book has, okay, so whose book has more pages? Okay, so Ken's book has more pages than Corey's book. Okay, fewer, so more, fewer, lower. So Corey's book had fewer pages than Ken's book. So remember, for countable nouns, more, so greater in amount, we use more. For smaller in amount, we use fewer for countable nouns. Okay, good. Let's go to number two. So this is Amy and Eva, and they have cherries. So Amy has 6 cherries. Eva has 3 cherries. So she has more, she has fewer. Okay, so Amy has more cherries than Eva. Eva has fewer cherries than Amy. Okay, now rulers. So Willie has maybe 5 rulers and Nick has 2. So Nick has more, sorry, Willie has more, Nick has fewer. So Willie has more rulers than Nick. Nick has fewer rulers than Willie. So remember, we always have to put the plural noun. I-E-S, S-E-S. Okay, good. Let's go down to number 4. Number 4, flowers. So question, whose drawing has more flowers than Amy's drawing? So whose drawing? So Amy has 1, 2, 3. So whose drawing has more flowers? More, greater in quantity. So Sally's drawing does. And remember, whose, when you see whose talks about possession. So whose? So you say Sally's drawing. Sally's drawing. Okay, ownership. Sally's drawing. So good. And whose drawing has fewer flowers than Amy's drawing? Fewer. It means less, little. Okay, so fewer means, good, less than. Okay, so means smaller in quantity. So Helen's drawing does. So who? So now we use who. Who talks about a person. So who has more books than Tom? So Tom, who has more books? Who? Mark does. And who has fewer books than Tom? Leo does. So you see, who? It's a person. Whose? Ownership means apostrophe S. Owner. Okay? Good. Let's go to number 6. March has 31 days. June has 30 days. There are more days in March than there are in June. Okay, you can see there. Okay, so for example, you can see there are more days in March than there are in June. There are less days in June than there are in January. Okay, so we move more and less. Okay, now this is okay. So you can see there are more days in June, and then you see there are less days in June than there are in March. So you see more, and also now you see less, but teacher divide. they can count the days. Okay, so you can say for days, you can say less days, or you can say fewer days. Okay, so there are less days. Okay, so they use more than and less than. Okay, so there are less days in June than in March. There are in March. Okay, now let us turn to page 25. Page 25. Good, page 25. Okay. So now, Ben has a lot of money. David has a little money. Okay. So remember now is uncountable noun. Okay, a lot and use a little for uncountable noun. So Ben has more money than Dave. And then David has less money than Ben. Number 2, Emily has a lot of rice. Mia has a little rice. So Emily has more rice than Mia. Mia has less rice than Emily. Number 3, Jack has a jug of water. A jug. Ken has a jug of milk. Ken has a glass of milk. So Jack has more milk than Ken. Ken has less milk than Jack. Let us go to number 4. Number 4. Rita has a bucket of sand. Carol has a bottle of sand. So Rita has more sand than Carol. Carol has less sand than Rita. Now question, who has more tea than Lily? More. So who? Person, so we say Anna does. Who has less tea than Lily? Cindy does. Okay, now, which plate? Okay, so which plate we're talking about? Option. So which plate? Whether we have to choose option. Okay, which plate has more toes than the pink? Which plate has more? So the blue plate. The blue plate does. Okay, so it does. Which plate has less toes than the pink? The yellow plate does. Now let us turn to page 26. Please turn to page 26. Okay, good. So now we're gonna use fewer. Yeah. Okay, so fewer. Okay, the bike has fewer wheels than a car. So the bike has 2 wheels, the car has 4. So the bike has fewer wheels, so you can count 1 wheel, 2 wheels. The car has more wheels than the bike. Now for days, okay, so there are fewer days in a week than there are in a month. Or you can say good. So there are more days in a month than there are in a week. But when you're talking about the month, you can see there are less days in June than in January. Okay, you can say this. Okay, good. Or you're talking about the whole month. But if you're talking about, okay, good. So there are more days in a month than there is in a week. Okay. Number 3, a hen has fewer feet than a cow. A cow has more feet than a hen. Okay, so remember feet. 1 foot, 2 feet. So you have to use the plural. Let's go to number 4. Oh, good. A bowl has less rice than a sack. A bowl holds less rice than a sack. A sack holds more rice than a bowl. A jug and a mug. Okay. A mug holds less juice than a jug. A jug holds more juice than a mug. Then we have a cup and we have a coffee pot. Okay. There is less coffee in the cup than there is in the pot. Coffee, so we have to use the singular coffee is. Okay. There is more coffee in the pot than there is in the cup. Okay. There is less. Okay. So there is less. Good. Okay. And so we have homework. Okay, so remember there is GE4C workbook page 19. And this is going to be your homework. GE4C page 19. Okay? Good. Okay, good. So, okay, so remember, for less, we say there is less. Okay? There are fewer. Okay? Okay? There is less, there is fewer. For countable. Okay? Now, there is less uncountable, there is fewer countable. There is more. There is more uncountable. There are more. Okay, good. So remember, there is less. Use uncountable. Good. There are fewer. Have to be countable. Okay? Countable nouns. Okay? 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 There is more. Have to be. There is more. Uncountable nouns. There are more countable nouns. Okay, there is more, there are more. It's countable nouns. Okay? Now, if you say, now, so there is less, you use uncountable. If you have there are less, there are less. This has to be countable. You have to put a countable noun there. There are less. You have to put a countable. There is less. Uncountable. Okay? There are fewer. You have to put an uncountable noun. There is more. Uncountable noun. There are more. Have to be. You have to put a countable noun. Okay? So this one, it sometimes pop up. You can see there are less days. Oh, and then less comes for uncountable, but you see there are. So you have to put a countable. Okay? There are less days. Okay? Good. There is less. There is less. Has to be an uncountable noun. There are fewer. Countable. Okay? Because sometimes it breaks the rules. Sometimes people use it they just use it to break the rules. So for you to remember, you see there are less. Have to be accountable. Okay? There is less. Uncountable. There are fewer. Have to be accountable now. There is more. There is more. Uncountable. There are more. Are more. Countable. Okay? Just that you don't confuse. Make sure you check for the are and it is. It's a good way to help you remember. Okay? Thank you.